Welcome to Dark Files Unsealed. Today, we delve into File 45, the Wallace case, an enigma that legendary crime writer Raymond Chandler dubbed the impossible crime, Liverpool, 1931, a city of fog and shadows. William Herbert Wallace was a quiet man, an insurance agent, a dedicated chess player, a man so ordinary he was almost invisible. But on the night of January 20th, this unremarkable man became the center of the greatest murder mystery in British history. His wife, Julia, was found bludgeoned to death inside their locked home. The crime was set in motion 24 hours earlier by a single phone call from a man who did not exist, requesting a meeting at an address that did not exist. Was Wallace a cold-blooded genius who planned the perfect alibi? Or was he the innocent pawn in a twisted, deadly game? Today, we unseal the file on the man from the telephone. The game began on Monday, January 19th. William Wallace arrived at the Liverpool Central Chess Club for his regular tournament game. As he walked in, the club captain handed him a message, taken just minutes before. A man calling himself R.M. Qualtrough wanted to discuss insurance business. He left an address 25 Menlove Gardens East End time, 7:30 p.m. the next night. This is the first anomaly. Wallace didn't know anyone named Qualtrough, and the caller didn't phone Wallace's home. He called the chess club. How did he know Wallace would be there at that specific time, on that specific night? It implies the killer was watching him, studying his routine. But Wallace, needing the commission from a potential new client, accepted the appointment. He didn't know it, but he had just accepted his role in a deadly game of chess. Tuesday, January 20th, the night of the murder. At 6:45 p.m., Wallace leaves his house at 29 Wolverton Street. He boards a tram. He's not discreet. He tells the conductor and several passengers exactly where he is going, meticulously establishing his timeline and alibi for the evening. He arrives in the Menlove Gardens area, a labyrinth of suburban streets. He finds Menlove Gardens north. He finds west. He finds south. But there is no Menlove Gardens east. It simply doesn't exist. For the next 45 minutes, Wallace wanders the dark, unfamiliar neighborhood. He asks a policeman for directions. He stops people on the street. He inquires in a local newsagent's shop. He is seen by at least a dozen credible, independent witnesses, all of whom would later confirm he was genuinely searching for the phantom address. Finally, realizing he's been sent on a wild goose chase, a victim of a bizarre prank, he gives up and heads for home. He arrives back at his house at 8:45 p.m. The front door is locked, just as he left it. He goes around to the back, but the rear door is stuck fast. Growing concerned, he forces it open and steps inside. The house is dark and eerily quiet. He walks through to the front parlor and makes a horrifying discovery. His wife, Julia, is lying on the floor. Her head has been crushed by a brutal series of blows. The room is splattered with blood. The police arrived and immediately suspected the most common culprit, the husband. They believed the whole Qualtrough call was an elaborate ruse, a fiction created by Wallace himself to manufacture the perfect alibi. They arrested him for murder. But at the trial, the prosecution faced one massive, insurmountable problem: time. A local milk delivery boy testified that he had spoken to Julia Wallace at her doorstep between 6:30 and 6:35 p.m. She was alive and well. Wallace boarded his tram at 6:45 p.m., a fair walk from his home. This leaves a tiny, almost impossible window of opportunity, roughly 10 to 15 minutes. In that sliver of time, the prosecution claimed Wallace did the following. He brutally murdered his wife in a frenzy of violence, getting covered in blood. He staged a robbery, rifling through a small cash box. He then completely cleaned himself up, leaving not a single drop of blood on his clothes, body, or in the drains. He disposed of the murder weapon, which was never found, and then he calmly walked to the tram stop, boarded the tram, and appeared perfectly normal and composed to the conductor and fellow passengers. It seems physically impossible, unless Wallace had stripped naked to commit the murder, and then took a shower, the timeline simply doesn't work. And yet the jury convicted him. There was one bizarre and damning clue. Underneath Julia's body, police found William's own Macintosh raincoat. The coat was soaked and ruined by her blood. The prosecution painted a chilling picture. Wallace, they argued, wore the coat while naked to shield his clothes from the blood spatter. It was a theory of cold, calculating, naked genius. Based on this circumstantial evidence, William Wallace was found guilty and sentenced to hang. But in a truly historic move for the era, the Court of Criminal Appeal overturned the jury's verdict. They reviewed the evidence and ruled that the case against him was simply too weak, that it was not proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Wallace walked free, but public opinion had convicted him. He was a broken man, shunned by his community. He died just 2 years later, his name forever tied to his wife's murder. So, if Wallace didn't do it, who did? Who was the mysterious Mr. Qualtrough? Modern investigators and authors have pointed to a compelling alternative suspect, a man named Richard Gordon Perry. Perry was a former, somewhat shady insurance colleague of Wallace's. He knew Wallace's habits, he knew the couple kept a cash box in the house, and he had a clear motive: he was perpetually in need of money. Most damning of all, Perry was known to use the name Qualtrough as an alias. And his alibi for the night of the murder was weak and uncorroborated. His car was even seen by a mechanic, freshly washed, near the Wallace home that very night. But the police, fixated on the husband from the start, never seriously investigated him. The Wallace case remains the perfect locked-room mystery. A fake call, a fake address, and a very real body. Someone played a brilliant, deadly game of chess with the police ... and won. The file is closed. Checkmate. Thank you for watching this episode of Dark Files Unsealed. If you find these investigations compelling, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's most baffling cold cases. We'll see you next time.